Be seated. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So as I said, we have our white clothes on because today is called Christ the King Sunday. Now, in the United States, we kind of don't do kings, really. We don't do queens and kings and royalty unless there is a royal wedding going on, and then it's all agog, and everyone is obsessed with what people are wearing and where people are standing and what people have said and the whole thing. Don't ask me why, but there it is. Now, the British, they are into their royalty. For them, the queen or the king is to be an example or a display of what the best of the British nation has to offer. So the royal family is expected to be proper and honorable, have integrity, and to forge ahead, keep calm, carry on, say the British, right? I'm afraid that these days, I have heard, that the British public is not particularly pleased with their royal family at this point, because they have not been particularly proper or honorable in their behavior toward each other. Now, the Ashanti of Ghana in West Africa, they like their king very much. Their king is prosperous and generous and of good heart towards the people. Yes, we are very pleased with our king. Thank you very much, they say. Here in the United States, we kind of put aside the idea of kings and all that a while ago. Today is Christ the King Sunday. So what does it mean for us to have Christ as a king? Well, Christ the King Sunday is a relatively recent festival in the church year. It's only 100 years old. It was initiated in 1925 by Pope Pius XI. And he looked around himself in 1925 and he saw all these nations around him in Europe emerging from the chaos of World War I. Their land had been devastated. Their economies had been crashed. Great Britain and France had exacted unreasonable and unrealistic reparations from Germany. So the people in Germany were starving. The Tsarist regime in Russia had fallen, and the communists had taken over the Soviet Union, and that was chaotic. And so, as happens when people are scared, and there is transition, and there is change, and the way the world is governed is shifting, folks get scared. And strong men arise and say, I will take care of it all for you. Everything will be fine if you just believe what I say, believe in me, and do what I tell you to do. After all, it's in your best interest. You saw Mussolini rising, Franco rising in Spain, Stalin rising in Russia, and of course Hitler was beginning his rise in Germany. Now the thing that strong men do when they rise is they use and twist our love for our country. It is a good thing to love your country. It is a fine thing to do. It is one of the many kinds of love that we use. We have love for our country, we have love for our families, we have love for children, for our beloved spouse or wife or husband or person that we hang out with. We have love for our friends, we have love for the stranger on the street, and they're all different. They're all different kinds of love, and they all have different means of expression. And they're all good. Why they're good is because they come from the one love, the love of God. And they're all expressions of the one love. That's how we can make them last. If we depend upon the one love, and the other loves will last through the hard times, through the difficult times, through the times when we love our country and we're furious with our country, right? There are times No matter where you are in the political spectrum, where you say to yourself, this is crazy, and it's because you love your country, not because you hate your country. Love for our country is a good thing. But a strong man will twist it and say, your dignity comes from your status as an Italian. You are an Italian. That makes you a strong person. You are a Russian. And you are a good person because you're a Russian. You're valuable and important. You're significant. You matter because you're a Spaniard. Right? This is what strong men do. And that is idolatry. Because then we are basing our dignity not on the love of God, but rather on our citizenship in a particular nation or tribe or group of people. Not on the grace of God, but rather on our allegiance to a particular person or a party. Doesn't matter which party it is or person, it's still idolatry. Mussolini said to the Italians, we will return to our greatness that we had back then in the old days. We will be great again, he says. We will be like Rome was in the old days. That's what he said to the Italians. Now, Stalin, he said this to the Russians. We will look forward now to our greatness in the future. I will bring you into greatness in the future. I will bring you greatness in the past. On one side, the fascists. I will bring you greatness in the future, the communists. It doesn't matter that much. It's two sides of the same coin. The point is that you base your dignity and your value. You trust the safety of your family and your future to Him rather than to God. Now, God uses the institutions of our society to protect us, to keep us safe, and to give us a future. God uses the police department and the military and the school systems and the legal systems and certain kinds of civil rights movements and peaceful protest and folks who keep an eye on the government and everybody else to make sure everybody's got either free speech or the ability to do the things that they're called to do, to have a good education. All that stuff works together, sometimes in opposition to each other, but still all of it works together to keep us safe and to give us a future on the land. Works imperfectly, every single one of them. But it still works together. They are tools that God uses. But if we depend on them alone, then we're making them into a god. We're engaging in idolatry. We depend upon the God who uses them to bless us. And we depend on the God who gives all of us a future into God's eternity. Pope Pius XI saw all these strong men rising around him. And he said, we need to remember who our real king is. He says, Christ is our king. But what kind of a king is Jesus? In our gospel lesson for today, Jesus hangs on a cross. He is utterly crushed. He is humiliated. He is defeated. His enemies laugh at him. The soldiers who have just crucified him, they paste us, they tack a sign above his head. It says, the King of the Jews. They are engaging in something called irony, where you say something and both you and the person you're talking to know that what you mean when you say that is precisely different from what you said. It's a kind of sarcasm. They're saying, oh, this is the King of the Jews, y'all. Look at him. They're insulting the Jewish people. They're saying, look at your king. He embodies everything that you really are. Look at him, totally crushed and defeated and weak and pathetic and disgusting. He is hanging there naked, peeing on himself. That's who you are. Say the soldiers. The irony of it is, Jesus is the King of the Jews and of the whole world, precisely because he goes to the cross for us. He brings the love of God to the places of the cross in our world and in our soul, where we are crushed and broken and humiliated and naked and peeing on ourselves. And even in the places where we are cruel and petty and cowardly, vicious, he brings the love of God to us there. Not just in the happy places. Of course, God is there in the happy places too, but in the places where we are sinners. What does this king do as he hangs on the cross? His enemies laughing at him. What does he do? Does he do what any normal king in history would be expected to do? Would he use his power to save himself and redeem the honor of his people? Would he call down armies of angels with swords and machine guns to wreak vengeance on his enemies? Would he curse those who torment him and promise them an eternity of agony in the flames of hell? What does he do? He says, Father, forgive them. Forgive them. Could it be that forgiveness is actually the most powerful thing in all existence? That forgiveness is more powerful even than armies of angels with swords and machine guns? More powerful even than hell itself. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the beauty of God that they are dishonoring and marring and shattering in Jesus and in themselves, because when we're cruel, we damage our own souls. And the way they're walling themselves off from the beauty of God in the creation around them and the people around them, the power of God that is in the world, the way that they are building a prison around themselves and chains upon themselves in bondage to their addiction to power. They don't know what they're doing. Father, forgive them. Now, we need to note here that forgiveness is not a popular concept these days. Forgiveness is interpreted as weakness. If you forgive, then you're weak. If you admit that you've done something wrong, if you say, please forgive me, I have sinned, I try to change my life, then you are pathetic, you are nothing, you don't have any backbone at all. When actually forgiveness, true forgiveness, is more courageous and requires greater strength. See, Jesus is not a doormat. He is not a doormat to let people walk all over him. He stands up to people who are engaging in hypocrisy, saying one thing and then doing the exact opposite, telling people to do one thing and then they get to go and do exactly the opposite. Hypocrisy. He condemns people who forget the love of the poor, even telling stories that imply that if we ignore the folks who are at our door and on the street and are hungry, then we end up in hell. He lifts up people who are on the boundaries of society, who are not supposed to belong. Jesus is not a doormat. And he keeps himself safe. He accounts for his own safety. On several occasions, people are in mobs and they want to kill Jesus in one way or another, and he slips away. He keeps himself safe. Sometimes when we are in situations where we are endangered, we need to pull ourselves away so that we can keep ourselves safe. Jesus is not a doormat, and forgiveness is not weak. Forgiveness is the insistence on being human with someone else who we see as human. We say, I am a person who is made in the image of God. You may not treat me that way. That's the first step of forgiveness. I am a person who's made in the image of God. It is not appropriate that you should treat me that way if someone is doing something that hurts us. On the other hand, similarly, you are a person who is made in the image of God, and therefore I will not seek vengeance against you. You are a person who is loved by God. Therefore, I will seek to love you even though you have hurt me. Because my dignity comes from God. You can't take it away, so I don't have to get it back from you. I don't have to push you down to make me look better, even if you've tried to push me down to make you look better. Forgiveness is the insistence on being in relationship, as healthy a relationship as we can get, one which we love and are loved by God. The criminals hanging beside Jesus. One of them joins in and curses Jesus. The Greek word is blasphemo, blasphemes Jesus, and says, "Are you not the Messiah? Come down from the cross and bring us down with you." And the other criminal on the other he says, "Do you not fear God? We are here experiencing the punishment for what we have done, which is just, but he is innocent." Now let's wait a minute. This guy just said that he has done something that he thinks deserves crucifixion. What do you have to do to actually think that you deserve a horrible death like that? Did you burn a village in the middle of an insurrection? Did you kill off a Roman family, man, woman, and children as part of a rebellion? What did you do that you actually think you deserve to hang on a cross for like days until you die? The criminal says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Notice, the criminal is not baptized. He does not subscribe to any particular set of doctrinal statements like we do on Sundays with our Apostles' Creed. He does understand Jesus to have a kingdom of some kind, and that this kingdom Jesus is going into, that there is something beyond death. He does say that. But what he really wants here, what he really wants is to be remembered. To be not a nobody. To be somebody in Jesus' mind. Somebody in Jesus' heart. Important enough to have still a recollection. He wants a relationship, in other words. He wants to be loved. Even though he's done something horrible. Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, for absolutely certain, you will be with me in paradise this day." This day. That's what Jesus says to the criminal hanging next to him. That's what Jesus says to us criminals, whom God loves utterly and completely. That's what it means for Christ to be our